What's up, everybody? Dreadshells here, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Like I said in the video description of my most recent video in the PZ38NA, apologizing for the break on the channel over the last week and a half plus. I've just been really busy. I'm in the process of moving, and so I'm sure most of you know how much work goes into packing and getting forwarding addresses sent to people who need to know it, and getting all the logistics settled with housing leases and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's I'm pretty busy. So I can't promise you guys how many videos I can get done before I move, but I'll do what I can. I have quite a backlog. I've been sitting on my hands for a while, and the replays just keep piling up. So I might just have to pick the ones that I think will be most interesting for you guys to watch. So anyway, this game that we're looking at today is in my SP1C, the Tier 7 German Scout, on Malinovka standard mode from the South spawn. Now, I know a few of you guys have been saying, man, you've been featuring a lot of Prokhorovka and Malinovka games recently. Well, yeah, that's partly because when I let replays pile up, generally you are getting more good games on maps that are more conducive for strengths for being a scout, which is like Malinovka, Prokhorovka, Redshire, Westfield, Highway, all those kinds of maps. So of course, the frequency of games that are good are going to be usually more often on those kinds of maps, the open and semi-open maps, like Lakeville even, than on the more close quarters corridor type maps like Tundra or Windstorm or Pilsen or Stalingrad. It's just a lot harder to have good games on those kind of maps. So anyway, a few thoughts before we start the game here about the SP1C. I've been playing on the public test server. I don't know if you guys know or not, this scout will be staying at Tier 7, I believe. And the new Tier 8 German scout tank is the HWK-12. So this tank won't see +3 matchmaking anymore. It will see +2 matchmaking and staying at Tier 7. So Wargaming thought that they would need to nerf this tank a bit so that it wouldn't be overpowered with changing of the tiers. I'm not sure if that was warranted or not. We'll see with how the metadata comes back from the server of how this tank is performing when the tank when the patch goes live, 9.18 patch that is. But the initial changes that have been made to this tank is they removed the autoloader, which is the gun that I'm using here, a 3-shot autoloader with 240 alpha damage each, and a 3-second interclip reload for each shot. I'm going to miss the autoloader on this tank. I think this is what made the tank, although you can argue that the single shotgun is pretty good too. But the main strengths of this tank was its firepower. It doesn't have really good mobility here at 58 kilometers an hour. Its horsepower to ton ratio currently is really bad, honestly. It's a little under 21 horsepower to ton ratio, which is one of the things that they buffed in the sandbox server, and then later on in the public test server. So the horsepower to ton ratio now I think is something a little over 24 horsepower to ton ratio. I can't remember. I'll throw up the stats on the screen here after I'm done recording this video. And they gave it some a little bit of love with terrain resistances, I believe. I can't remember if I'm remembering that correctly or not. So this tank won't be as sluggish as you are used to it being now when patch 9.18 comes out, but it won't have the autoloader. And the single shotgun, they nerfed the rate of fire on that as well. So we'll have to wait and see. This tank does have good gun depression, so maybe that will help it still be relevant, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, let's get going with the game. We're in a Tier 9 game on Malinovka, and there isn't any arty on either team. And like I've shown in a few of my previous videos about how I like to scout from the south spawn, a lot of you guys, let's see if I can tick the battle here for 1 second. I don't remember if I have free cam on this client or not. Oh, I guess not. But anyway, usually what I like to do is I like to do this roll scout through the field, not too deep, but going about a third of the way into the field and doing this roll scout to spot the enemy team here as they're dispersing out of their base or staying in their base, whatever they like to do. And the other reason I like to do this roll scout in the field is I like to counter scout their scouts, right? If you do this roll scout correctly, usually their enemy scouts will not be able to get into this stereotypical E4 bush here. If you look on the minimap here, the north spawn scouts like to try and get into these E4 bushes here right along the edge of the swamp, and they can get some really good spots on your team that are sitting in base and even dispersing up here into F7. So that's the other reason I like to do it, is to counter scout the enemy scouts. And there are 4 scouts on the enemy team, along with a T-54 and the T1. The T10 rather is a pretty mobile heavy as well. So generally I don't like to try and go for that great bush over here at the edge of F5 and E4 from the south spawn, just because tanks you at this tier have way too good a view range, and there's 4 scouts, so it's very unlikely that I could get into this bush up here without getting spotted. So I elect to go for the roll scout here. And you can see the sluggish acceleration of the SP1C here. It feels more like a medium tank currently on the live server, currently in 9.17.1, than a scout tank. I think it's 20.5 or 20.7 horsepower to ton ratio currently. But you can see there we got a ton of spots there by just doing this roll scout. We see there that the 2801 tried to go into there in that old-fashioned traditional spot there in H2 and G3, and he got spotted and got smoked there before he could retreat. Quite surprisingly that the Bulldog and the RU-251 didn't try to go into this bush here, or at least I didn't see them try to do it. Now I'm moving up here. This 5916 was a little too far back. I like to go up to these bushes right here. Not really trying to cut off this 5916 here, I was just trying to make it into this bush here before these tanks start crossing up here in this A7, A8 area. You can use this bush here as cover, so that's why I was trying to cut left and keep the bush in between me and whoever was going to be crossing up here. Unfortunately, our 5916 poked a little too high there, and he ended up getting shot from C5, I believe. Do a little quick re-peek there, see if I can spot anything. Kind of dangerous trying to do it from here. A lot of our team have pushed over to the west, and I'm going to pause the game here quick. I won't try to be too exhaustive and in-depth here and try to keep it brief here. As a scout, you always need to be willing to be flexible and work with your team as much as you can, right? Sometimes the decisions that your teammates make in their positioning makes it harder for you to help them, and a lot of that comes down to map control. And by map control, I mean the percentages of positions on the map that your team controls or occupies compared to the enemy team. And usually at the start of the game, you want it to be at least 50-50. And potentially the more area of the map that you control, generally the better the outcome will be, because you have better angles of attack on the enemy, where they have to start looking in 2 or 3 different directions, and your team usually has to look in fewer directions, because the enemy is very concentrated in one area. But anyway, what I need to be paying attention at here as my team are making this really aggressive, heavy push along the water side here, along the southwest and into the enemy base, is that we don't have anyone up here that can to fight on the hill other than potentially this T-55A, and he would be by himself if he did that. So it may be pretty unlikely that he would go up there by himself, but we'll see. But either way, we're not going to have a large presence here on the hill. So what I need to be thinking about is how can I help all my teammates down here after they kill this KV4. This KV4 right here that's sitting at that traditional rock there in F2 as a base defense for the north spawn. After they kill this guy, what is their next step of progression? Their next step of progression is either moving along diagonally across this way like here and then moving up here. If you look at the mini-map, doing this kind of movement here, or they're pushing up the one line. Either way, they'll be exposed to snipers from C5, right? This is a very common position for snipers to sit on the north spawn on Malinovka. So what I need to be thinking about, how can I help my team the most in this particular situation? And what I can do is dive down into the water here, move along the water here, and come up here and spot these snipers so that they're not shooting my teammates that are all over here, currently out of draw range, all out over here, so they don't get shot for free by all these snipers here. That at least I'll have those snipers spotted for them. And I decide to do this relatively early as well because you want to be moving with your team, right? As they're moving up here along the one line, I'm moving along here so that eventually I'll spot these snipers. Dove into this cliff face here because I was worried that the bulldog was going to cross back over into C5 and B5, and I didn't want him to spot me until I got into cover right here along the slope. And there we go, we proxy spot the Scorpion G here. Really bad shot there, as Oz Irish likes to call it. That's an old man reaction shot. And the Scorpion G, I actually thought he was going to charge me and come down the slope, but oddly enough, he decided to cross for some weird reason. And because of me missing my first shot really badly, I wasn't able to actually kill him. I could have killed him there if I hadn't missed my first shot, but the IS-3 on my team takes him out. Kind of taking a risk here, peeking this high, but I want to try and take this bulldog out so I'm a little bit more free to lurk and move around in the C5, C6 area. We spotted T-29 there that's still sitting on the backside of the hill here in A8. And he's kind of playing a semi-defensive support position there. And so right now I'm getting all these spots. It looks like a lot of their team went back to help defend their base. They probably were moving up towards the hill, and then when they saw our team's push along the water side, they came back to defend. So kind of surprising move by the enemy, but sometimes they make some tactically viable decisions there. Right now I'm just trying to use some bush mechanics to keep me from getting spotted. Kind of risky doing this here as the T-29 is pretty close to me. He's only about 390 meters or so away from me. So it's potentially the T-29 behind me can spot me. When you're trying to shoot from cover and shoot through soft cover and not getting spotted, something that you need to keep in mind is you need to evaluate where all the enemy targets are around you, not just the ones that are in front of you that you're shooting at, right? Look behind you, look to the side of you, and see if there are any potentially other enemy tanks that can spot you while you're shooting. And there we go, I get spotted while I'm shooting at this T-30 here. I think I was because I wasn't using bush mechanics properly there, or potentially the T-29 spotted me. But it might also have been the angle where the bush wasn't covering me from the IS-3. But luckily, no one takes a shot at me. Very surprisingly, actually, a lot of guns could have shot me there due to my my poor work of using soft cover there. Now we have some really nice side shots into the VK-4502B. Now we know that it is probably the T-29 that's spotting us because we couldn't have gotten spotted likely from B3 before by this IS-3 and T-30 because the bushes here were on our right and we were far enough away from all the enemy tanks that were on the one line here, so it's probably the T-29 that was spotting us. So we give up shooting for the moment here and try to keep those tanks there in the back, the T-30 and the IS-3 lit. I'm going to pause there again. Just once again adapting to the situation, right, and helping my teammates out. Because all their team came back from their hill advance and came back here, and to defend their north base, the enemy team, from our water push. Right, our team initially made a really heavy water push, and the enemy team saw that and they came back to defense. So once my team came up here and killed the enemy KV-4, and they started exchanging fire and exchanging shots with the enemy tanks here, and then with me helping clear out this C5 sniper perch, their push was being stalled, and it was being stalled by some heavy armor tanks here along the 1 and the 2 lines, and also the secondary sniper support positions by the tanks back here, the IS-3 and the T-30 that were sitting back here in this B3A4 area. So the next thing that I need to be doing is trying to keep that T-30 and this IS-3 lit as much as I can, because those are the tanks that are preventing my teammates down here, this 54 Mod 1, Tiger 2, Borsig, and Tier 9 Batchat, from flanking, right? As soon as we kill out, if you look at the minimap here, as soon as we kill out this T-30 and IS-3, what can my team do? They can flank around to the right, like this, right? Through the 3 line. And then that way, not only will all these enemy tanks on the 1 line being shot by my teammates down here, directly in front of them to the south, but they were also being shot by my teammates over here to the right, and on the east side of them as well, along the 3 lines. So you need to be thinking about how can you help your teammates out by flushing out the enemy support tanks and letting your teammates flank. Right now, just trying to take some evasive action, driving to keep from getting shot by this T-29. Honestly, should have been shot by him earlier, but he might be a little slow on the trigger finger, who knows. Doing something really dumb here and stopping in the open to shoot this D-10, but I figure I can afford to take a shot from the T-29. And I'm bouncing my shots here on the side of the turret. The penetration on the SP-1C is actually one of its high points. It's 180, which is really good for a Tier 7 scout. But it's not quite enough to go even through the side armor and the side turret armor of the T-10 the way that he was angled to me. And once again, I'm counting on the fact that this T-29 doesn't have good enough view range to see me until I fire. And right now I'm moving back here to help get some more flanking fire in on these tanks that are stalling my teammates there. Another bad reaction shot there as the VK-4502B was moving back and forth. And then once again, I'm moving back here and trying to spot the support tank, right? The anvil of the enemy team here is in C1 and D1, and their support tank here that's on Overwatch is this IS-3. So trying to keep him spotted, and if we can take him out, then my teammates can, once again, like I said earlier, flank around to the side. Get a nice side shot into the Tiger 2, and we let him on fire. And cool kids let burning tanks die by burning. We just sat there and watched them burn to death and saved my shot, but unfortunately it didn't mean anything for me to save that shot because I missed my shot on the super version, so that is unfortunate. Moving up here once again to try and respot the IS-3, and didn't notice that I actually respotted the enemy T-34 there until now. And we spot this IS-3 moving a little bit further up into the A5 and A6 area along the church. Our Borsig puts a really nice shot into him there. Reverse back 15 meters behind the bush there so I don't get spotted when I fire at him. And take him out, and a little bit slow on the trigger finger, and I was waiting for the reticle to zoom in and aim so I could take a more accurate shot with the T-34, but I wasn't able to shoot it before one of my teammates killed him. Realized that I was loading a one-shot clip there, misplayed by me, and then took me too long to just notice that, so I'm reloading a heat clip here, and unfortunately I'm a little behind because my reaction in noticing that was so slow. I would have been loaded already. So I just decided to go for it here with this T-54. I can afford to take a hit, and unfortunately one of my teammates accidentally shoots me, the E-50 on my team, which means that it only took the enemy T-54 2 shots to kill me instead of 3. It normally would have taken him 3 shots to kill me, and I figured that we would have killed him before he would have been able to shoot me 3 times. So that's unfortunate that the E-50 timed his shot badly, and the shot ended up hitting me instead of hitting the T-54. But now the T-54 is a one-shot, and then he gets taken out by the T-55A, and I believe that the 54 mod 1 is the tank that ends up taking out the 4502B here. Yeah. So we ended up winning this game, not by much actually. It was a pretty close game in the end. It was a back and forth battle. The enemy team was actually doing a reasonable reaction to our heavy base push at the beginning of the game, and they were able to stand off and defend their north base from our team's assaults for quite a while. But with some really good sniper support and some vision that I was able to provide here along the 5 and the 4 line, we were able to kill out their support tanks that were helping their anvil tanks, I like to call them. That whole hammer and anvil tactic, where you want the tanks with armor and hit points at the front, and the support tanks with good gun handling, good burst damage, good alpha damage, sometimes even to be supporting them from behind, so that if the enemy decides to push them, they get shot twice instead of just once. So anyway, that is the game here that I had in my SP1C on Malinovka standard from the south. Unfortunately, don't get to survive this battle, but we end up doing quite a bit of assistance damage and direct damage ourselves. So wish you guys the best of luck out there in your SP1Cs, and hopefully the SP1C will still be a fairly competitive tank when patch 9.18 gets released. Happy hunting and take care.